So in this video, I want to review the idea of order of operations. Because subtraction and multiplication and division and addition are not all the same thing, and they each have special properties, you can't just do them in whatever order you want. You can't just read a problem from left to right. Otherwise, people will all get different answers. There needs to be a convention on how to do it. And so we came up with a convention on how to write and read problems so that everybody can say the same thing. And the idea is this idea of PEMDAS. The problem with it, you probably heard about that before, is that you may end up thinking one little mistake, which with PEMDAS. And so I'm going to try to clarify this in this video. Yes, parentheses is always first, whatever's inside of it. If you have any operation there, you got to handle it. Now, if all you have is a number, then there's nothing to do, even if there's like a negative sign in there. But if there's an operation inside of parentheses, you got to handle those operations first. Now, within the parentheses, you follow the rest of the order, okay, which is exponents. Then, here's where the kicker is. Multiplication or division. You don't necessarily do it multiplication and then division. Yes, I know the m comes first, but it does not mean that the m is first. In fact, they are tied. I think of these as a group, right? And that's why they put a bracket over here. Which means if you have a problem that has both multiplication and division, you have to read the problem from left to right. That's how you break that tie. You see an example right here. 9 divided by 3 times 2. You don't just do the multiplication first. You're actually going to go do the 9 divided by 3 first, which gives you 3. And then you do the times 2, giving you 6. If you do the multiplication first, you get a different answer. So the convention is they're tied. You go from left to right. You don't always just go from left to right. Parentheses first, then exponents. Now, within multiplication and division, you go from left to right. The other thing is that if there's multiple multiplications within the problem, then you should still read it from left to right, even though with multiplication, it doesn't matter. But with division, it does. If there's multiple divisions in the problem, you need to read it from left to right. The reason it doesn't matter with multiplication is because of the commutative property of multiplication. It doesn't matter which order you do it. It works out. But if the problem has multiple divisions, it still has to be from left to right. So in general, I just remember, go from left to right to break the tie between any divisions and multiplications if you have multiple ones listed in the problem. Okay? Likewise, A and S for addition and subtraction, there's also a tie. So that's why there's a bracket there too. So if there's both of them in the problem, you can't just do addition first, even though the A comes first. You actually have to do from left to right. So you see the example here, 4 minus 2 plus 6. You don't do 2 plus 6, which will give you 8, and then take away that from 4, giving you negative 4. That would have been wrong. What you actually have to do first is this subtraction, slash 4 plus minus 2 gives you 2, and then add 6, which gives you 8. A completely different answer because you're supposed to read it from left to right, and it's a tie between subtraction and adding. Now, break the tie by going from left to right. Let's see how this all works in action in one slightly larger problem. All right? So if let's say, for example, you have 8 minus parentheses, 4 times 3 plus 6, close parentheses divided by 3 to the power of 2 times 2 plus 1. Wow, lots of steps. Still, we're going to do one step at a time. And that's the other thing that I'm going to give you a hint. You only take one step. So long as you do a single step and copy down the rest, you will never make mistakes. So parentheses first. So I have to do things within the parentheses. And within the parentheses, I got to go in the right order. So I'm going to do this right here. The 4 times the 3. And so I copy everything else. 8 minus 4 which gives you 12. So you see me actually solving the problem right there. I noticed there was actually an error in the order of operations, so I paused the video and recorded it. It was an error that didn't matter for the final answer, but I accidentally did exponents first, and you don't do that. You do parentheses first. So now I'm going to continue working on the parentheses, which is 12 plus 6. Right here is the next step I'm going to do. And then you can see that. I copy down everything else. 8 minus 18. I resolve that step. And then copy everything else. Divided by 3 to the power of 2 times 2 plus 1. Only take one step at a time. Copy down everything else exactly like you did it. All right? A lot of people like to do this vertically too. And I'm going to show you another example of that in a second here to help you out. All right, next, since I have no parentheses left, I have to do exponents. So I'm going to do this part right here, 3 to the power of 2. Exponents just means that you're going to get the number and multiply it by itself that many times. So that means 3 times 3. That's what 3 to the power of 2 means. Twice, you're going to multiply it 3 times itself, right? That's what 3 to the power of 2 means. If it was 3 to the power of 3, you would do 3 times 3 times 3. It's not 3 times 2. That's not what the exponent means, all right? But we're not going to see a lot of exponents in 7th grade, by the way. I'm just putting it there to make a really tough problem so as to break it down. All right, so you can see I copy everything down. Else down, 8 minus 18 divided by 9. I resolve that step. Times 2 plus 1. Copy everything that you don't work on. Only change one thing per step. All right, so next, what do I do next? Well, division and multiplication goes first because I don't have exponents left. And so you could be tempted to do 9 times 2 because m goes first. But remember, there's a tiebreaker between division and multiplication. You go from left to right. So I'm actually going to do 18 divided by 9 next. And you see that I did that. Copy everything else. 8 minus 2, which is 18 divided by 9, times 2 plus 1. Next, I still have this multiplication right here. So I'm going to do 2 times 2 on my next step. So 8 minus 4, which is 2 times 2, plus 1. Next, you might be tempted to do addition, but remember, subtraction goes first. So then you're going to do 4 plus 1. Why 4? Because 8 slash here, change the sign, do different signs. So 8 minus 4 is 4, and then plus 1. 4 plus 1 equals 5. Finally, you got the answer. Without this convention, you give this to 2 different people, they're going to get completely different answers. And that's why you have to follow in order to do this. So for the people that like to see things vertically, I'm going to actually show this problem again, but doing it vertically to see if it makes more sense. But I am doing it with a different problem, right? So, and again, it's already solved, but you can do more practice like this with me if you need to in a different video that I have on this on another series. But I also do practice like this in the actual workshop, so you can actually use that at the last video. So let's go in steps, and I'm doing it vertically this time, and I'm going to circle each step that I have to do. So first inside of parentheses, and within that, I have to do powers first. So then you see that in the next step, all that I do is change that. Everything else gets copied exactly the way it was. I only change that one thing right there. So I like doing it vertically because it makes it easier to see that change. Still have a parentheses. I got to go division first because I got to break the tie by going from left to right. So 9 divided by 3 gives you 3. Right? See, one step at a time. Still have the parentheses. 3 times 4 is my next step. Gives you 12 on the next step. Right? Now I have another parenthesis to handle. And if I have 2 parentheses, I handle the parentheses on the left first. All right, so I'm going to deal with this parentheses next. And within that, I might be tempted to do 4 plus 7, but it's not adding and then subtract. It's add or subtract. You break the tie from left to right. So I'm actually going to do this first right here, the 3 minus 4 slash change. And then you'll actually get 3 plus minus 4, which is negative 1. And I actually continue the problem over here. And you can see how I changed that to negative 1 right there. Still have parentheses to work on. Negative 1 plus 7, 2 different signs. I have to put them together. Nope, find a difference. And the difference between 7 and 1 is 6. Keep the sign of the biggest, which is 7. So there it is, 6. And that's what I did. I actually worked on the parentheses step right here. All right, now I have to do whatever comes first with division or multiplication. So I'm actually going to do exactly that. I'm going to do this multiplication right here between the half and the 6. And half times 6 gives you 3. And that's what I did to the next step. Copy down everything else. I still have one more multiplication that I need to do. Oops, that's actually a problem on the order of operations. So let's go ahead and fix that. Let me pause the video here. Actually, I'm not going to pause so that you can see the error that I made. I did multiplication in the wrong order. Now, it doesn't matter because multiplication can be done in any order, and it still gives you the right answer. But technically, I was supposed to go from left to right and do the 12 divided times the half first and actually get 6. And then do that times the 6. So, which will still give you 36, so it didn't matter, right? So this shows you how multiplication can be done in different orders, but you can hit into problems if you do things whatever order you want every time. If you remember to do it the same way every time, you always get it right. So I'm glad I made that mistake. It's not really a mistake because it didn't affect the answers, but it could have been if it had been a division. So always go from left to right. So I had to do this multiplication first right here, right? So 12 times half gives you 6, and that's what I did right there. Now I'm going to do this multiplication. That's right. If there is no sign, multiply. There's a multiplication sign between these two. So 6 times 6 give you 36. And then last but not least, I have to do that last subtraction. So 39 slash the subtraction sign, change the sign of the next number. And they are different signs. So I find a difference between them, which is 3. Keep the sign of the biggest, so it's plus. Plus 3, final answer. Multiple steps practicing the order of operations. Now, obviously, you are not going to have to deal with anything remotely like this when you do practice or problems in our class. But I did a really long problem to show you that as long as you follow the order and only do one step at a time and follow the rules, go from left to right to break the ties between multiplication and division and between adding and subtracting, you will always make sure that you get the same answer as everybody else. Remember, by the way, that if you have multiple parentheses, you work on the parentheses on the left first. And that within the parentheses, you can apply the rules within it. And then that's it. Order of operations.